Should you spay and neuter your puppies when they're young, before their first heat cycle, before they turn 1 or 2 years old? Well, this is my intake of it after working at a veterinary hospital, and based off of my observations and personal experience only, I would suggest that you don't spay them at a young age before their first heat cycle or before they're 1 or 2. And the reasons why I say this is because I was one of those people who spayed and neutered my puppies at a very young age. I spayed them around 6 to 7 months old before they even hit their first heat cycle or before they even hit their 1 year mark. And I did that because I wasn't educated that much. I was informed by everybody and by veterinarians and by Google that you should spay or neuter them at a very young age to prevent health complications in the future, such as cancer, UTIs, other kind of health issues, and also behavioral issues. And I noticed that that's not entirely true, because I spayed my puppy at 7 months old. She actually tended to have a lot more UTI after I spayed her. And she already had aggression issues in her because I adopted her at like 6 months old and I spayed her a month later. She already has some aggression issues, and I thought spaying her would probably help it a little bit more. It didn't change anything. I still had to train that out of her. For the males, when I neutered them at a young age, before they even started marking, they still ended up marking later on. It didn't change anything. Also, after working at a veterinary hospital, I started noticing that a lot of dogs or a lot of puppies that would come in, they actually came in with those kind of health complications. Like, for example, I would see a lot of females come in with UTIs or, any issues with their parts down there. I noticed that it was due to the fact that they were spayed when they were younger. They were about 1 to 2 years old, or maybe even just a little older than that. And you can tell that they were spayed or neutered before they went through the first or second heat cycle. I started seeing that more often. And then not just only that, some other dogs would come in with a lot of joint issues, or they would tear their ACLs or stuff that I noticed that with their growth plates because they weren't properly in place yet. And I started noticing that those were the puppies that were spayed or neutered at a very young age. So then after that, I told myself that if I was to ever get a puppy in the future, I was going to wait for them to develop properly first before I spayed and neutered. And I noticed that I didn't really have that much issues, because the females that I had and that I didn't spay after their first heat cycle, I actually didn't have that much complication. If anything, I never went through any UTIs with any of those females. I don't really have males, but I have relatives that have males. And I noticed that they didn't neuter their puppies at all, or they didn't neuter them. They didn't really have that much issues. Oh, and also the other thing that they said to spay at a young age is to prevent accidental litters. But I believe that's actually an ownership thing, a responsible ownership thing, because all the females that I've had, I don't have them around any males, or if they do go through a heat cycle, I tend to not have them around any males. I don't bring them around. That's how scared I am, or that's how much I want to prevent them from having an accidental litter. So this is my intake. I would suggest to wait until after the first or second heat cycle before you spay your dogs, and wait until they're 1 or 2 years old so that their growth plates can actually be properly developed first before you spay and neuter your puppies. But it's up to you, whichever one you prefer to do. If you feel more comfortable spaying and neuter them at a young age because you have another male in the house, that's up to you. I would say to do that as well, because if you can't control the other male or you can't control the dogs, then it is best to spay them to prevent anything from happening. These are all based off of my observations and the reasons why I choose not to spay and neuter at a young age anymore.